Hello and welcome to the Independent's Ask an Expert session, where we'll be discussing all the latest developments of the crypto market. My name is Anthony Cuthbertson, and I'm very happy to be joined by Simon Trimborn, an assistant professor at the Department of Management Sciences at the City University of Hong Kong, and Fred Shabester, a crypto expert and founder of the comparison platform Finder.com. Welcome to you both. So we're going to get straight in. Since we last did one of these sessions, there's been quite a lot of news coming out. One of the biggest, and what people have been asking about, is El Salvador's rollout of the Bitcoin law, which made Bitcoin legal tender in the country, making it the first country to do so. But it also coincided with a fairly severe, but not unprecedented price crash. So firstly, I'd like to hear your thoughts about whether this is a positive development and whether you're expecting more countries maybe to follow suit. Fred, we'll start with you. You're on mute, sorry.
That was the number one thing that's been said in 2021.
Yeah.
I think now we've got the canonical example of an entire government taking on cryptocurrency. You can always point to this. This is a major historical development and this historical moment in time that everyone's always said, oh, well, what can you actually buy with it? Well, now you've got an entire country that accepts it as a currency. That's just conceptually, if you were going to go back, back in time 10 years, that sounds like science fiction. Proper science fiction. But now it's a reality. And that's that. If you think, okay, if that's where we are today with that country, if you go forward in time, what does that mean for the future? It's like when, schools started taking on the internet and universities and corporations started building websites and, all those kinds of things. I think it's the exact same moment in time. I think it's a very, very canonical example where everyone can always refer to this, regardless of whatever happens from here. And I think it's an extremely bullish sign.
Simon, your thoughts on El Salvador?
Thank you, Anthony. Well, it's definitely a huge development. And I think when I went into researching on crypto, I would have not expected to see this so soon, to be frank. I mean, it's probably a little bit more than 10 years than Bitcoin first emerged. So it's quite a huge development. If this, what's going to happen out of this now is, of course, I think we have to observe in the next months and years what's going to happen for how it's going to be adapted indeed, and how frequently it's actually going to used. Since you can still choose, right, if you want to actually use Bitcoin or US dollars in the store. So how it's actually going to be picked up is quite a huge deal, I believe, and this is only something which will manifest in the future, and it's definitely something a lot of us will look at and refer to when it comes to how things are developing. I will also be very interesting to see if now actually money is going to be sent from the US into El Salvador via Bitcoin, which is quite part of the idea, right? This is something I think we should watch and see where this will lead us.
Yeah, absolutely. Western Union probably aren't too keen on all of this, all their remittance fees. So it coincided with that price crash, which has sort of been seen quite a lot in 2021, with the price leapt up above 60K. It fell back down below 30K. Now we're somewhere in the middle. It's, I think, around 47K the last time I checked. I would love to hear, or not just me, but many of our readers would love to hear whether you are bearish or bullish about the market for 2021 and going forward, whether you might expect to see new all-time highs, or whether you're in the camp where we're going to head back down and see even lower lows. Fred, we'll start with you.
Well, September's always been not a great month for crypto. I don't know why. It just always tends to be a bit of a sell-off maybe potentially coming into Christmas. It just tends to not be great. Don't know why. I couldn't tell you exactly what that deal is, but there's something about September that's never been the funnest time. And I think, if you look at the sort of the sentiment, it was like really like coming up, like growing and rebuilding itself from that low of 28,000 or so. And it slowly was sort of gaining momentum. And I love a good slow crawl. It was like a nice slow crawl up, which is really, shows a lot of strong sentiment. And then once we were hitting, what was that? It was sort of, I'd say 53,000. We were just too high. Too many people were starting to pile in, and we needed a bit of a sell-off in order to work out who was actually a long-term holder and who was, sort of here for the short term. And that's what got flushed out, right? People got too bullish. There was a long squeeze that happened, and we saw a big pullback. I do think the El Salvador news also helped to provide some headlines and got the people to come in. But then when obviously it started to sell off, everyone was piled in as well and sort of freaked out a bit. I think what's interesting about now, it's set up for a much higher high, a higher low than where we were at. We didn't pull back to 28,000. Which is interesting, right? And we're staying above, I think this recent test above 44,000 was a very interesting area. And if you zoom out, I'm very bullish. I think we could even see, a significantly higher Bitcoin. It could by Christmas. I feel Christmas could be really interesting from here. We're kind of triangulating a bit to go either one way or the other. And which way it goes, obviously that's a coin flip. But I feel like this has been a nice, consistent climb up, and it takes a lot of warriors to kill a lot of bears out there, if you know what I mean. So to go to an all-time high, we've got to go and slay a lot of bear, and so I think it is possible. And I feel I'm getting more and more bullish from here. But it's kind of like the markets are slightly undecided right now as to where it's going to go. It's still triangulating to this sort of wedge, and I think it's going to be very interesting come Christmas.
Great, Simon. I know a lot of your research recently has been on sort of market predictions and crypto experts. So feel free to offer your own prediction, but also I'd be very keen to hear a bit more about your research and just crypto predictions in general.
Thank you, Anthony. So when it comes to crypto, my kind of default setting is for any crypto always bearish, because we don't really know where it will go. And this actually, it's simply a market which is always quite difficult to predict. And even if it reaches certain highs, it can fall very deep, very quickly. We saw that in the past, and there are so many coins out there which are pretty much considered dead. Sure, Bitcoin is in a bit of a different state, of course. What we're seeing in the moment, I think, is also that different kind of players are acting in the market. We're seeing actual companies investing excess cash into the crypto market, not necessarily into Bitcoin, but in general. So this can kind of also influence the prices, I believe. And I wouldn't be surprised, they're totally side with Fred, that the price has potential to go even higher from here. I would not really say in the short run. For the horizon, it's always difficult in crypto to say anything. Though since we have this kind of different investors now in the market, different kind of interest from different kind of parties now, this could actually influence it to go higher. Though for a particular crypto, I'm always very, very careful to say anything since we don't really know. And plus also, the interest of these kind of investors is not necessarily always on Bitcoin. They look at the broader markets. They look at different kind of coins, like coins which facilitate projects, for example, are quite popular also always, right? And so that the overall market capitalization would increase, this wouldn't surprise me. This is more like something I guess will happen, since we always see more and more projects coming into the market, ever new ideas being generated. So there is, I do think, still potential for the overall market to increase. But a particular crypto, I'm not so sure about that. where this will always go. So there I kind of abstain usually from giving any kind of predictions. It's a big question. And you were asking about the research I'm doing, right? So in the past I worked with my colleagues like a lot on kind of questions, what are the kind of drivers for cryptocurrencies, what influences them, and what usually drives prices higher, lower, or doesn't influence them at all. Also, if someone actually decides to engage in this market, for whom is it the most beneficial? A lot of these findings, some of these findings probably do not to so surprise you right now too much, like something, for example, that if you want to diversify your portfolio, like have being a little bit disentangled from the market, then, for example, this is a market you can look at. This is, of course, an argument which is pushed since a long time. Something else where we are looking at just very recently is then if you can actually learn something if you look at crypto experts. We wanted to particularly find out if we just reading the news from them, their tweets, what they're saying on the internet, if we can learn something about what they're discussing, and also if their sentiment, their feeling, they express, if this actually helps us to understand better for the market, where the market is going. There we were a little bit surprised in the sense because we investigated that like a lot left and right. We're really trying to figure out if there is something, and we figured it's actually not the case. So particularly the kind of sentiment doesn't really help us to find something in the short or even in the long run. Kind of an advantage about knowing where the market goes. We were looking there really broad at different kind of cryptos and also at indices to figure out if there's something. We're looking at different kind of methods. And we had kind of a broad set of experts covered there. And we were particularly surprised that also like subgrouping them by saying, okay, let's look at the ones who are only analysts or journalists, that also these ones didn't really help us too much. But quite a surprising finding. So if you want to have a look, the paper is actually out there. So I invite you to check it out and let me know what you think.
I'll put a link to it in the article where this video will be published so people can find it.
Can I just add one more thing, Anthony, just about the market right now? I think there's something else that's very interesting that I do think it's happening, and I'm just picking up again on Simon's point, if I can build on that. I do think there is this really emerging space in play to earn. So play to earn games like Axie Infinity. I think Star Atlas is making Solana extremely bullish. There's a ripoff of Axie Infinity on Binance Coin launching tomorrow. It's IDO. There's Plants vs. Undead. There's Illuvium. There's all these new games coming out. Now, what does that create? It creates new coins and new value added into the cryptocurrency space. And what I think can happen is the people who make money in those spaces take that money and then go and put it back into their blue chip other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum and like Bitcoin, right? So they sort of bring it all back. They sort of meddle around in the old coins, and then they always sort of tend to come back and buy and hold their digital gold, which is their stable, long-term hold. And I think that's what's starting to happen, right? So all this new tech, this new games, new NFTs, new money that's being made, it adds to the pool of the ecosystem and adds to the market cap overall. And I think that's one of the things, sort of underlying macro, which is all sort of propping up the market space in a small way.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you mentioned Solana there. In one of these chats we did, I think it was one in May or June. One of the questions was which projects, which cryptocurrencies are you most sorry about that. That's one of my cats misbehaving. Which projects you're most excited about for the future or going forward? And you, Fred, said Solana, and at the time, and Sol, the currency that goes, the crypto that goes with it. At the time, I think it was around sort of $30 or $40, maybe even less. And it's risen fourfold since then. So that was one prediction that did come true. Although it has since fallen a bit and had a couple of difficulties, but it's still way up from when you mentioned some of the questions we were having is what is Solana and like how does it differ from other like decentralized finance platforms like Ethereum or Cardano? So Fred, why were you so keen and are you still keen on Solana? And can you explain it just in a sort of general sense?
Yeah, like so Solana is just a really fast Ethereum. It just processes lots and lots of transactions really, really quickly. It's also got a lot of influence from the FTX guys and with SBF, with Sam, who's the founder of, FTX and Alameda Research. It's just got a lot of, influential people that are what I think are very smart and have some really good context on markets and also traditional markets and where potentially really fast moving technologies could be applied. So here's my prediction. Again, Simon, unfortunately, I don't know if I seem to be sometimes right, sometimes wrong, but seems to be doing okay so far for people who've been listening to our casts, is that I think Solana will become the high frequency and high transaction blockchain. It can handle a lot. It had a bump recently, but Ethereum has just been tried to get hacked recently, and a couple of nodes got tricked. It happens as well, right? This is the nature of decentralized blockchains. I think the other one that I'm very bullish on is the Terra / Luna ecosystem, which I think will become the algorithmic stablecoin of crypto. Now, the reason why I'm so bullish on that is that right now what we're seeing is a lot of regulation coming around stablecoins and around decentralized finance. You look at Coinbase as an example, and it's trying to get its earn product or lend product out. And the SEC, I think, is just swirling around this space. They want their pound of flesh when it comes to crypto. They want their pound of flesh in stablecoins. They want their pound of flesh when it comes to decentralized finance. And Coinbase is a great, target for them. It's a nice juicy one that they can bite into. And I think this potential threat of stablecoins could mean that algorithmic stablecoins, in other words, not centralized ones, could potentially be a really strong candidate for becoming a very central place within cryptocurrency. Because, obviously centralized ones have weaknesses. They can be attacked because they have actual, funds under management at a bank that you can go after. The difference here with Luna and Terra is that Luna itself is burned every time its stablecoin gets printed. And so you essentially got a coin which is going in the opposite direction of its stablecoin, which is a fascinating thing in and of itself. And so I think so my bigger prediction here is that I think UST and Terra Luna will become the stablecoins, like the canonical. It has obviously Korean won, it's got Australian dollars, it's got British pounds, it's got all sorts of stable coins on it. I think it'll become the canonical. You can see Terra Luna are great friends. So Solana and Terra are great friends. They've got a page on the Solana website about Terra. It's not like, I think they're friendly. I think Solana will be the high frequency place. So lots of trading going on, lots of replication of different exchanges. FTX has got obviously Serum as well with its decentralized finance. They're the same things that are happening on Ethereum at its core. It's just faster and it's more efficient. And I think, but this idea of centralized stablecoins, I think, is going to be the next thing that's going to be the headlines and coming up and be challenged. And therefore, those are the two projects I'm really interested in.
Right, good to hear. Simon, I'd actually be keen to hear what, not just the projects you might be interested in, but you do research as well on crypto exchanges. So which ones you sort of focus on most, which you think are the most sustainable, and which ones are going to be still around in sort of 5-10 years?
Oh wow, that's a big question. So when it comes to the kind of crypto market, so as said, I'm not really on particular projects where I can really say something, but I have a kind of feeling that certain broader topics could be quite interesting due to certain things which are currently happening in the market. This would be, for example, these kind of platform coins, where you then can launch on NFTs and DeFi, since these kind of applications simply need a base, right? So not sure which one of them will be actually the most successful, or if it's even not any one of them currently out there, or if it's something which will come in the future. But this is something which I feel has a lot of more potential, not just, and we don't know what will come next, right? Currently we have NFT, we have DeFi. There might be a third or fourth thing in a very close future, which we may need to look at, which you can do based on these kind of platforms. And another thing I found interesting are like chains which act as connectors. So like connecting different kind of chains together and allow us to actually send information from one chain to the other. Since we have now such a huge market, like way more than 11,500 cryptos out there, there is some need to connect them. And since basically all of them have the scalability problem, they are at some kind of point, the network can no longer process it. Different kind of platforms could be connected over these kind of chains. So this is something I find particularly very interesting, which since it's something which the industry kind of needs in the moment. And to the exchanges you were talking about, right? Yeah, so we're looking currently at a huge data set of different cryptocurrency exchanges, and what we're analyzing there is if certain exchanges are serving the price discovery different than others. So in the sense of this exchange has the new price first before another one reacts after. So kind of with the intuition that on a different exchange, these traders would look there to know which price to follow. And this study is pretty much still ongoing, and what we kind of observe is that we saw, particularly in the earlier days, more exchanges which were actually acting as kind of leaders. So we actually observed situations where certain exchanges were serving as kind of price leaders. They had the price first before the others reacted. Though the effect was a little bit then vanishing with time, but as said, it's still work ongoing. So we are still doing robustness tests and everything. The results I'm sharing now can still change until we are actually handing out the actual document. And to particular exchanges where to look at, well, that's a huge question. I personally am a bit careful with that, which kind of exchange to use. But what one can definitely do is look like on CoinGecko or also CoinMarketCap. They have like a score how trustworthy they find certain exchanges. So this could be one indicator one want to have a look at when choosing which exchange is the one to work with.
Yeah, definitely. Trust is very important, and that's a good advice. That's pretty much wrapped up our time there. So I'd like to thank you both very much for joining me, and thank you to